Hello everyone, welcome back to the Red Path. As you'll notice again, I'm not in my normal place. I'm actually back in England again on some personal family stuff, but the visit also happens to coincide with the LGT, the London Grand Tournament, and I'm like 20 minutes away from it. I'm in one of my childhood bedroom basically, or where when I was a teenager, and I'm staying with my mum at the moment. And yeah, we're 20 minutes away from where the LGT is, so I'm actually hoping to go down there on the Saturday morning, first day of the major, and say hi to some people I know from the Discord and that, and just have a little look around. I'm going to take my brother and my nephew, show them what a 40k big sweaty tournaments like. But I actually wanted to record a little video going over some of the list there, because there's actually at least 4 World Eaters players showing up. There may be a few more, but they haven't declared themselves as World Eaters. They're as Chaos or Chaos Space Marines. So if that's you, next time be up front and centre with your World Eaters declaration, because if we look into the list, it's just easier for us to pass through over 700 list, 700 players at the LGT, so this is a huge tournament. But yeah, like I said, we've got 4 World Eaters players, and I'm actually just going to briefly go over the lists and who they're going up against, or what army they're going up against, and kind of just get a feel for it. So I'm just going in alphabetical order here. I'm not going to like do a deep dive here or anything, but just to sort of give a feel for the meta for World Eaters right now, and how I think their first round is going to go. And I'm going to be honest here, I'm not going to show like favoritism for the faction. I know some of these players are very strong players, but I haven't researched their opponents or anything. So the first one we can look at is Chris Hales World Eaters. Now this is a very nice, well, all the lists are really good, but this one is very similar to stuff I've run in the past. We start off with a Demon Prince with Flames of Spite and the Gorget of Eternal Hate. So re-rolling wounds in combat, and mortal wounds in addition, a mortal wound in addition on a 6 to wound. So it's pretty nice. At strength 10 with the sword on the charge, etc. You can probably fish for those 6s quite often if you need to, because you're mostly going to be wounded on 3s against most enemies. Then the token Dark Apostle with Illusory, absolutely expected. We've got 3 squads of 5 berserkers, 2 squads of 10 cultists, the mandatory almost big blob of red butchers with the rune. I think he's running them all with accursed weapons and bolters, which I absolutely respect and like that build myself. We've then got an additional squad of 5 terminators. The champion has a fist, power fist, and a combi melter, and there's a Reaper autocannon in there as well, which I'll be following along these results and try and find out how this worked for Chris, because the 10 and the 5 Terminators is something I've been sort of list building myself, haven't tried it in practice. We've also got 5 Possessed, and then here's where this is what I love about this list. We've got 2 Blood Slaughterers and 2 Mauler Fiends. So that's great. I love seeing the Mauler Fiends, especially. They're in my opinion, they're still not amazing. They're still not like top tier units. I think other legions can probably do a little better with them. Word Bearers, for example. But I think they are significantly better than they were pre 9th edition Codex. And Blood Slaughterers are solid. Now, Chris's first matchup is against the Deathwing. I believe the list has got 3 squads of 10 Deathwing Terminators. There might be some other Dark Angel stuff in there as well, but that's the crux of the list. So Deathwing's quite a hard army for anyone to beat through. They're not as prevalent as they used to be with changes to secondaries and stuff, but they're still they're just very tough. Whether it's storm shields, they're sitting in cover. They're just transhuman all the time on the Deathwing Termies. However, Blood Slaughterers and Mauler Fiends both have 3 damage weapons, which is perfect for taking down Terminators. They're only going to be wounding half the time. The Demon Prince having reroll wounds plus Flames of Spite, so he's going to be wounded on, well, it'll be wounded on 4s, but re-rolling. So that's pretty nice, and 3 damage as well. So Chris has actually got a pretty decent shot. He's pretty well teched into Dark Angels, actually. Their Bolt of Fire is going to struggle against all the T7 and the Rune Butchers here. I don't want to say he's going to win, but I think he's got a strong chance. If they're equal skilled players, I think Chris has got a good shot. Having the speed, because the first mission is Abandoned Sanctuary, so no pre-game moves, but being able to position if he pre-measures well and things like that, getting his Slaughterers and Maul of Fiends ready for a turn 2 charge, depending on if he goes first or second. Pretty nice. No Prisoners is going to be a great choice here because there's at least 9 points in the Terminators, in the Deathwing Terminators, which will go up to 10, depending what else is there. Yeah, I think this is a pretty good matchup for Chris, and I obviously wish him the best of luck. You don't know how it's going to go. His opponent may be like a top tier player. We don't know, but all things being equal, good chance for him. Second list we're going to go through here briefly is Jack Beeman. Jack's been on the channel a few times. If you're in the Discord, he's always in there. So Jack is, a lot of pressure on him. If you're watching this, mate, all our hopes are riding on you right now. Jack's been 4-1 at a couple of GTs now. He's a very strong World Eaters player. He is running basically a wall of death. We've got the Demon Prince with wings and sword with the Mantle of Traitors, so he can cast out his reroll 1s aura. He's got reroll hits in combat. Just a beast, really, and he gets a free skulls for the Skull Throne. Then we've got the Illusory Apostle, of course, 2 squads of 5 Zerks, a squad of 10 Cultists, an 8-man Red Butcher squad with the Rune. He's got a Heavy and 2 Combi Flamers in there, 2 squads of 5 Possessed, a single Spawn, a squad of 6 Raptors, 2 Vindicators with the shields, of course, the Noctilith Crown, which I'm a massive fan of, and Abaddon. I believe this is identical, very similar to his 4-1 from a few weeks ago. So yeah, he's unfortunately, this is again on Abandoned Sanctuary, so no pre-game moves or anything. He's going up against Eldar. Very interesting Eldar list. I don't know much about the elves, but we was actually chatting about this yesterday, trying to figure out what the hell we can do secondaries wise and stuff, because it's a tough Eldar list. It's very fast, got a lot of shenanigans going on. It's got Eldrad, bikers, it's got everything. So as strong of a player as Jack is, this is a very hard matchup for him. Obviously I wish him the best and I hope he pulls out the win, but it's tough. Eldar's just a tough army for us. They're so active in all the phases. They're so easily able to just jump away from us with their battle focus and things like that. So it's a tough one. But if Jack plays the mission, if he plays to score points or to deny his opponent points, there's a win in there, absolutely. But honestly, if I was perfectly neutral and a betting man, I'd probably go for the Eldar on paper, just because data sheet efficiency and Ulthway as well have so many faction traits. It's ludicrous. Who knows how many rules they've got? Certainly not me. But again, we'll see what happens. It's a dice game after all. So the next list, this one I'm only going to go through briefly. This is Josh Connor's list. And the reason I'm only going to do this very, very briefly is because I'm actually going to do a full video on this, because Josh is one of our top tier patrons. I'm not trying to sell anything here, but I'm doing a special list analysis of this actual list, and that'll be a full video dedicated to this. But briefly, this is a very aggressive, it's called mid-board control list, this one looks like to me. And the reason for that is we've got 3 Land Raiders. This is just, I love this. You're going to run 3 Land Raiders. It's such a ballsy move, quite frankly. And Land Raiders aren't terrible. They're not terrible. And I think the trick might be to making them good is to run 3 of them, because most armies can probably deal with turn 1, turn 2, at least, getting it down to the bottom bracket. 3 of them with Berserkers inside is causing problems, okay? However, Josh is going up against Genestealer Cults in round 1. Now, I've done okay against GSC. If you're playing someone who really knows GSC, however, like a faction specialist, they can be, quite frankly, a top tier army. They have so much bullshit. However, this is good for Josh because no pre-game moves is going to limit some of the stuff that the GSC can do. Now, I'm sure they've got ways around it because they seem to have an answer for every problem. But with the pure strain gene stealers can typically get like an easy turn one charge and things like that. That may be somewhat mitigated, allowing Josh to be a bit more aggressive in his deployment. Hopefully he's familiar with GSC and what they can do, or has looked over the list and kind of got a rough plan on how he's going to handle them, because they can still deep strike in later on, and I think they can even deep strike turn one with some stuff, and come up close to the 9 inches. And he's got quite an elite army altogether. Luckily for him, because the Land Raider isn't a dedicated transport, he doesn't have to start anything inside it. It's a heavy support still, so he can screen out his field against deep strikes and things with the multiple squads of Berserkers, because he's got 5 squads of 5 Berserkers. This is just a pure World Eaters list. This is lovely. But anyway, like I said, we're going to touch on this list more in depth, probably be in a week or two. I've got the stuff together. I've got kind of the script written. I just haven't had time in real life to dedicate a good quality video for it yet, but that's coming. And maybe Josh is going to go ahead and win the LGT, and then we'll just get him on as well. But no. Okay, so the last list I want to touch on here, because it's the fourth and final declared World Eaters list, is Victor Schuberg's. Sorry, Victor, if I've mispronounced your name. One of the first videos we ever did on the Red Path was Victor had just I think he went 4-1 at a GT himself. He'd either won it or went 4-1. It was a very strong finish. And I know he got featured by Goonhammer because he was running several squads of mutilators. And it was just like, what the hell? Why are you doing this? Why? Because he made it work. Obviously, we can't run mutilators at the moment. Hopefully, we're getting something very similar from the leaked, or not the leaked, the announced pictures that GW put out. Looks like a mutilator conversion piece for the Obliterator model. Anyway, he's not running mutilators. What Victor is running is a Dark Apostle with the Solterra portent, which is basically Veterans of the Long War in combat. Dark Apostle with Illusory, of course. Then we've got an Exalted Champion with the Mantle. So the Exalted Champion is going to be able to cast out to a core unit, reroll 1s to wound. Pretty nice. I like that. It's interesting. Haven't seen many Exalted Champions out in the wild recently, but this might be the play. Then we've got a single squad of 10 Cultists, 2 squads of 5 Berserkers. We've got the big blob of 10 Red Butchers with the Rune, of course. 2 squads of 5 Possessed. 2 squads of 6 Raptors with Power Fists on the Champion. Squad of 5 Talons. A Forge Fiend with the Plasma and Plasma Mouth. And then a Forge Fiend with the Hades and the Demon Jaws. So this list, whilst fast, or the access to speed, also feels to me like a Counter-Strike army. You can see some tech builds in there, like having 6 Raptors, probably for RND play is my guess. They can deep strike in turn 2 and then turn 3 for the hard corners. The Zerkers having no transports in this, so between them and the Cultists are probably getting the home quarters. That would be my guess. The Solterra Apostle is something I've considered myself. I've written it in a couple of lists. Potentially the Raptors are going to be a turn 1, getting Solterra and the Exalted Champion for an Alpha Strike. Not in this mission because it's Abandoned Sanctuaries. But, or we're going to get an incredibly buffed up Red Butcher squad, which is literally demolishing at anything. When it's at strength 10... there's nothing in the game it won't be wounding on 2s outside of things with Transhuman, with the Solterra on it, and then re-rolling 1s. This is ludicrous. You also give it +1 to hit if you want. One of the Dark Apostles, the other Dark Apostle, for instance, could, instead of casting Illusory, put up Dark Zealotry, so he's re-rolling all hits, basically re-rolling all wounds. Just whatever you've got there, mate, just pick it up. That 30 wound knight, just take it off the table. There ain't nothing surviving that. Sorry. Which is good because Victor's facing the Death Guard. This Death Guard list had several, I think it was 3 or 4 squads of Plague Marines, had a couple of PBCs, Terminators. It's a very good looking on the table, very standard looking Death Guard list, I would say. Not as a detriment to it, because that's what we want. We want our armies on the table to look like how we envision them. And it's not skewing either into demon engines or heavily into infantry. It's very Death Guard feeling, slow, purposeful. It's coming for you. Can you kill it? Enough of it in time. I think this can. We World Eaters are not bad against Death Guard. I'm not going to say we're great because I play against Death Guard almost weekly and have a tough time against them. But on paper, we're well equipped to face them. I think most of our attacks from anything that we care about fighting is going to be strength 6 or above. It's going to be AP 3 or more probably. Either single damage, so ignoring their -1 damage, or we're going up to 3 damage with like the Demon Prince build, for instance, and then killing Plague Marines in 1 bypass save. The Plasma Forge Fiend, especially, I like the Plasma Forge Fiend. Again, this is a unit which does do better in other legions, but the Plasma's got some decent DAC. I mean, I believe it's D3 each, so it's 3D3, they're blast, just a good weapon all round. Overall, though, I think I favour Victor in this mission. It'll be a slow game. He's going to have to trade well. He's going to have to, make sure he's picking off the right units and playing the mission. But it's not an easy win by any point. But I think there's a win in there. All of these games have definitely got wins in them. I do think Jack probably got the hardest matchup with the Eldar, just because Eldar are something that really outplay us. GSC for Josh is going to be very tough. Just because, again, they're a very tricky mobile army. I think Victor and Chris versus the Deathwing and Death Guard, who rely on their resilience. Luckily, resilience is something we don't generally care too much about because we have so much volume that's quite accurate, especially with our Red Butchers. If they get in there, I mean, it's game over for people, quite honestly. Red Butchers are a win condition often for us. Anyway, I'm going to cut this off here. Just want to wish the best of luck to these players. Obviously, I want you all to win as many games as is possible. I want the 4 of you to be the top 4 at the end of the event. But realistically, I hope you have fun games. I hope you have great opponents. I hope it's a good time and you enjoy yourselves. And if anyone else is coming out there and you see me walking around, say hi. Love to have a chat. But yeah, that wraps it up for this one, folks. Until next time, stay healthy, stay safe, and kill main boat.